What I'm going to make today is a seafood pie. It's a great convenience recipe because most of your ingredients come out of the freezer. All your seafood, your peas, traditional, non-traditional puff pastry top. On top of those things, you need some vegetables, some herbs, in this case some tarragon from the garden, and some wild garlic that we found in a nearby wood. A bit of flour and butter, which we'll use to thicken the sauce, and the poaching liquid, which will become the sauce, which is going to be based on milk, and for a change, a bit of beer. Now, this beer is a Hefeweizen, it's a German beer. It tends to have a light flavour, it has a sort of a yeasty note to it, and most people will pick out coriander in there as well. It's a low bitterness beer as well, which is important. Otherwise you tend to find that the bitterness comes out very strongly once the food is cooked. Okay, the first thing we want to do is get our poaching liquor on the stove. Very importantly, that leaves a bit for testing. That will do the job nicely. And we want to add a few extra ingredients for flavouring. Think of it as sort of like a stock. All of this will get strained out after we've poached the fish. It's in there just to add some flavour. A couple of garlic cloves. Crush them firmly. And pep it up a bit. A couple of cloves. They'll get poached in our milk and beer solution for about 5 minutes or whatever is necessary to defrost them. While they're poaching, they're going to leach flavour, especially these smoked haddock fillets, into the liquor. And we want to capture all of that. That's why we'll be turning that into the sauce for the pie. While the fish is poaching, we can get on and do some of our veg preparation. Now what I'm going to do with the leek and the fennel is just saute it in some butter, and it will form an extra layer in the fish pie. We want this fairly thin so that it softens up, because remember we'll be cooking it with some leek, which is already very thin. With that done, I'll get back to looking after my fish. Okay, once all the fish is poached and removed from the liquor, you can strain out the bits and pieces we put in here for flavour before. I'm going to use this pan to soften our fennel and leek. 25 grams of butter there, in with the fennel and leek. And we're just going to pop that on the stove in a second to soften it up. We won't be browning it, just making it sort of glistening and translucent. Now the fish, we don't want this skin in the pie. Strain what liquid we can out of there. And get these vegetables onto the stove. Now that the fennel and leek has been softened, I want to remove that from this saucepan, because we shall now use this saucepan to create the sauce for our pie. Now to create a nice thick creamy sauce, we use a roux to effectively just equal quantities of butter and flour, in this case 60 grams of each. That 10 grams per 100 ml of liquid. We'll put that on the stove, melt the butter down, and then cook it. Make sure the flour is evenly combined into the butter. When it's been cooked on the stove on a medium heat for about 5 minutes, we'll very slowly start whisking our liquid into there, and we should get a nice thick sauce. When that is actually all in there, we're going to add some freshly chopped herbs. So in preparation for that, I'll chop the herbs now. Now, we can put all of this wild garlic in. The stems are quite tender, but I tend to find the tarragon stems are just a bit too tough to go straight into something. Okay. That'll be quite fine enough for the purpose. We'll pop this onto the plate over here. The making of the sauce will require all your attention. You need to whisk it as you're working the liquid into it. So, off to the stove now. All the ingredients for our pie are now ready to go. We just have to assemble the thing. What we'll do is we'll get everything into the pie dish, put the top on, and then it goes into the oven. Go for the fish first. Now, I'm going to break this up a bit, but we want chunks of fish in our pie. We won't go too overboard. Now, frozen mixed seafood. And here we have some squid, some prawn, and some mussels. Work all of that together in here. A few frozen peas. Need to go too overboard with these. They do seem to be quite traditional for the dish. Pour that in there. Now, the gravy. Look. We'll ladle that in over the fish. Nice and thick. I'll put this in at the end here to make it much easier to handle. I'll use this fork to make sure it works down into the seafood. Just going to scatter a layer of the softened vegetables over the top. And on with the lid. We have a few bits of excess pastry. Tradition dictates that we try to cut out some mutant fish shapes to decorate our pie. I think that will do for the mutant fish. You just get a little bit of a milk wash just to give the final pie top a nice finish. And I'll be popping it into 180-degree oven. Now, as everything that's in here now is cooked, you don't need to worry too much about it, which is great. So the oven, mainly to reheat everything and bring our puff pastry top to a beautiful finish. I almost forgot. It's a good idea to pierce your pie top. Otherwise steam will form inside there and pop out who knows where. And there's our seafood pie, fresh from the oven. It was probably in there for about 30 minutes. It's got a nice crisp puff top on it, and I'm really looking forward to trying some of this. Whoa. Listen to that. No ceremony, straight through those fish. I have just blanched some asparagus from our local farm shop to go with this. This was picked yesterday. And the excess sauce I warmed up, thinned it a little bit with some milk, and we can put that on top here. Could have thinned that down a bit more even. And for decoration, very important, how about one of our garlic leaves? There we have it, our seafood pie. And importantly, since half the gravy is the beer, it would be rude not to enjoy it with a glass of said beer. Now it's time to dig in.